Jean Manning is a journalist who stumbled into a strange world when she started asking questions about alternative energy sources and heard the story of an early 20th century inventor named Nikola Tesla.
Sent me a file of materials about the Bernard Eastlund patent.
About a month ago, the U.S. Patent Office granted a patent to a Houston-based scientist, Dr. Bernard Eastlund, for an invention which, Dr. Eastlund says, could be used to change the weather. Dr. Eastlund says the invention could also be used to disrupt communications all over the world and might be used to destroy or deflect a missile attack.
The Eastlund patents had the ring of the mad scientist aspect of Tesla. Tesla talked about this Tesla shield around the planet and talked about particle beam weaponry, something called a death ray.
Death Ray?
A ground-based Star Wars weapon system.
HARP is a non-classified project run not by Bernard Eastlund, but by the U.S. Army and Navy. The official HARP story is told by one man, John Heckscher.
It consists of several types of transmitting instruments and numerous scientific instruments that study the natural ionosphere and the ionosphere that has been perturbed by the instruments that we are building.
The ionosphere is a...
correlate with projections of what can be done in the Eastlund patents. It's that simple.
So it's not a coincidence?
It's not a coincidence.
Well, I hate to disagree with you, but it's not his patent that we're building. Superficially, yes, they send energy up into the ionosphere, but the Eastlund patents require huge, prodigious, in fact, amounts of power, like 100 billion watts.
Remember that number, 100 billion watts. You'll hear it again later.
HARP requires only 3 million watts.
There is a paper trail leading us back to Eastlund.
No, there is not. There is no paper trail that I'm aware of that's leading back to Eastlund. Eastlund used to be an employee of the company which is building HARP, but that's pure coincidence.
Goods on HARP, and his weapon is the internet.
The military is incapable of doing pure science. Science is conducted by them for application in weapon systems, for no other reason.
37 years old, Tesla devoted his prodigious energies to creating new inventions in his laboratory in Lower Manhattan, where he passed long, solitary hours, and delighted in showing off his experiments to friends, artists, writers, society figures, the luminaries of his day, among them Mark Twain.
Stars of the Gilded Age came to his laboratory, and Tesla was a star among these stars.
Tesla continued inventing,
had in mind, and I'm sure that when he took that money, he thought there'd be more following once he achieved some measure of success.
But a triumphant Guglielmo Marconi doomed Tesla's dream. On December 12, 1901, Marconi sent the first wireless transmission across the Atlantic, based on Tesla's patents. 8 years later, Marconi would win the Nobel Prize for the invention of wireless telegraphy, radio.
And the minute J.P. Morgan sees that, he's done with Tesla. So there's no more money coming from J.P. Morgan. So Tesla's in a very bad place.
Tesla believed that the tower would also be powerful enough to send signals to nearby planets, especially if there were any Martians out there to receive them. In 1916, his fortune dwindling, he relinquished the Wardenclyffe mortgage to the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, where he had been living on credit for almost 20 years, running up a debt of $20,000. Demanded attention, but increasingly, his ideas were losing their mooring in reality.
Science and science fiction meet in Nikola Tesla. As time goes on, his inventions start to take on more of the fantastic. They are visions, they take full flight, they unleash themselves from the strictures of reality. He starts to develop an idea about photographing thought.
When he was 12, in an extraordinary feat of mind control, he banished the images that haunted him by willing himself to live in a visual world of his own invention.
He could travel in his own visions, travel to foreign countries, understand foreign languages, and having control over these visions spurred on his creative energy in later life.
He even doesn't know how the world works, and he thinks that he will be welcomed and well-funded because he wants to elucidate the mysteries of electricity.
He spent a year patenting designs for arc lights for two New Jersey businessmen who cheated him out of his patents and left him penniless. When it came to business, Tesla would always be naive. He spent the next winter digging ditches for $2 a day. There were many days, he said, when I did not know where my next meal was coming from.
When he leaves Edison's lab, his heart is broken. This man who he thought was going to be a mentor to him, in some kind of dark opposite way, ends up mentoring him, right? Just by teaching him maybe what he didn't want to be.
Tesla was alone.
NSA of the US has developed a very efficient method of controlling the human brain. This technology is called remote neural monitoring, RNM, and is expected to revolutionize crime detection and investigation. What is remote neural monitoring? RNM works remotely to control the brain in order to read and detect any criminal thought taking place inside the mind of a possible perpetrator. Research studies have shown that the human brain thinks at a rate of about 5,000 bits per second and does not have the capacity to compete with supercomputers performing via satellites, implants and biotelemetry. The human brain has a distinctive set of bioelectric resonance system. For the RNM system, supercomputers are being used and, thus, with its help, supercomputers can send messages through an implanted person's nervous system in order to influence their performance in a desired way. RNM has been developed after about 50 years of neuroelectromagnetic involuntary human experimentations. According to many scientists, within a few years it is expected that DNA microchips will be implanted in the human brain which would make it inherently controllable. With RNM, it will be possible to read and control a person's emotional thought processes along with the subconscious and dreams. At present, AIS is carried out without any physical contact with the subject. The EMF emissions from the brain can be decoded into current thoughts, images and sounds in the subject's brain. It sends complicated codes and electromagnetic pulse signals to activate evoked potentials inside the brain, thus generating sounds and visual images in the neural circuits. With its speech, auditory and visual communication systems, RNM allows for a complete audio-visual brain-to-brain link or a brain-to-computer link technology using microwave radiations for the control of the mind. Scientists believe that like leukemia and the cancerous risks posed by mobile phones which also emit microwaves, RNM can also pose similar threats to a subject's overall health as their heating effect of tissues with the speed of light is a known effect of high-powered microwave and electromagnetic pulse weapons. Thus, RNM remains a controversial technology
rapidly. Now, if you have more than that, the brains become schizophrenic and the thoughts overlap too much and they can't focus on whatever the problem is that they're trying to solve. Now, of course, the military and CIA, and those are the experiments that are being tested on some of the public. They're often called emergent minds. And they're completely alien to this planet.
70s. But we were told all that stopped. Is that untrue?
Untrue. These programs continue under new names, new budgets. It's the ultimate weapon.
Are there citizens of this country that are being abused with this technology?
Worse than abused, that's a light word. They're being tortured. Control. And I'm sure there have been other speakers that talk about this. Our sense of free will. And I do strongly say it's just a sense of autonomy. You're always, unless you're in a sensory deprivation chamber, you are always getting other influences that your mind is reacting to. They also use it for sampling the population, for predictions of mass influence. So what if we say this on television, as a policymaker in your government, how would the population respond? What other words can we use?
Scripts, they use the same scripts on almost all TIs, and so you can hear what they're telling the individual, go do this, go do that, we're going to kill your family, we're going to kill you, and they just try to ramp up your terror level, and it's domestic terrorism, but it's part of trauma-based conditioning.
So one time that I didn't do what they said, and guys, please don't laugh about this and don't judge me, but they tell me things like, hey, if you don't masturbate, we're going to murder your grandmother. I know it sounds crazy, man, and I don't know who the hell want to see me masturbate.
I know, it's just the control. They just want to say, will you obey?
But
will you obey?
But listen to this. The first time, and I promise you guys this, the first time that I didn't do what I was told, I went upstairs, and my grandmother, she's in a wheelchair, she has a pacemaker, she's 82 years old. Within minutes, because I didn't masturbate, my grandmother was slumped over in a wheelchair.
Even in the dream state, when you have no defenses, they want to see if they can insert thoughts into the human being. So another dark topic.
Admitted for us, I'll tell you guys like this. There's only relief when the person who is torturing us allows us relief, okay? I'm not going to sit up here and try to tell you guys, hey, you know what, wrap aluminum foil over your head, go take all those pills, because in the first place, why in the hell would you have to take pills?
2007, of course, it had been around for quite some time before then. Army has something they call voice to skull. We got the Air Force using microwaves to create sounds at Brooks Air Force Base. We've got the Marine Corps with their Medusa project. We've got the State Department, as reported by the Washington Post in 2005, working on voices implanted in people's heads. We've got a couple of companies, one that has patented something called hypersound. That's American Technologies. Has also got Holosonic Research Labs, also has a patented version. So the military-industrial complex has been all over this. When you see something this wide, this is not just one little research project from one organization. And this is something that 5, 10 years ago, it was being reported on in even mainstream press like the Washington Post, and yet nobody knows about this.
Well, the people who follow the internet pretty closely, and certainly the victims of this technology, know about it. But you're right, there's been a lot of research done into how to put voices into one's head. It was found long ago that if you can put a voice into someone's head, you can do several things. If I put a voice that's foreign to your normal thought pattern in your head, that becomes harassment. And the harassment over time will make you display signs of schizophrenia. When you go and tell people that you're hearing voices, we've been patterned to turnkey see that as schizophrenia and not even look to see if there's a legitimate source for it. If I put a voice in your head that's in your voice, and if you pattern a thought, like I tell some of these victims, when you read a book, you're actually
written with knowledge. And I said, how can a person know so much about so many things and handle it with skill in this way? I just didn't know.
HPB communicated mainly with two masters, Moria and Kuthumi.
These people lived in Tibet, but they weren't Tibetans. They were Indians. And the Brotherhood had picked her to disseminate their ideas as much as they want to reveal to the world through the madam.
They feel they can do more for the world by not being visible personalities. And there has been a lot of interesting developments of that idea where one hears about ascended masters and so forth. They themselves say, no, we're fully physical. We are what we are by virtue of our training. We have spent our lifetime pursuing spiritual and philosophical and scientific questions, and we feel that we have some answers that we can provide that help humanity to understand what they are, where they came from. The answers to the questions of ultimate concern.
These masters are more spiritually evolved. That means that they can live longer, hundreds of years. They have much more knowledge. They are almost, if you can use an analogy, almost resembling, we might say, the hidden hand theory, which means that behind this world there is a small cadre of individuals who are controlling things. And so these masters are in separate brotherhoods in India, in Egypt, and elsewhere, who are helping to perhaps control the progress of the planet and spreading the wisdom. Together with the notion of the masters, it could very well be that the masters were perceived to be human beings who projected themselves out of the body. And that was the reason why they can go literally anywhere in the world to communicate with individuals.
Thinker, a seeker after the eternal truth with an inspiration of his own to solve the universal problems. According to HPB, theosophy or divine wisdom refers to the ultimate truth of the supreme, the cosmos, and humanity. It is a truth that has existed from the dawn of time.
Theosophy is some way a connection between the world and the divine. And what is in the world reflects the divine and is the divine. So the idea is a unified teaching in which everything
of beginning the path leading to Tipler's Omega Point, but there is more to DARB than an application hooked up to the internet. Dr. Tesla in his past life began the process of converting the Earth into a fully controlled automaton, controlling the weather while in the process converting the sky into a projector screen. Another step was creating an eye in the sky capable of remotely viewing any point on the globe accessible using a handheld device. Other capabilities include voice-to-scour microwave hearing, and remote neural monitoring, thus bringing the capability to beam voices directly into one's head, or simply implanting ideas some know as inception, the ability to remotely extract an individual's vision and view it on the monitor. Such technology can lead to taking the vision though one pursues then through this directed energy tech, beaming it into a different individual while they sleep. All this means that the gap between science and what was once considered mystical is forever combined. Among those who understand is the concept of the collective intellect, the internet, but it has a counterpart, the outer net, or the collective unconscious. What we are close to arriving at is a perfect simulation of the concepts thought to be accessed through the spiritual. Now they're one. Welcome to the Gnostic Church of DARB. All drugs are free. According to DARB, everyone has a right to food every day, a roof over their heads, power and clean water. That is a basic right to each Grey, or one who belongs to the Church. A Grey is a self-evolved enlightened sovereign, no longer a mere human but a transhuman. A Grey worships a strict logic in all situations where dogmas and learned bias against thought had once brought.
Okay, now I'm going to move on to the true story of Lucifer. Lucifer is an important character in the Bible. His story is told in Isaiah 14, but it is in other portions of Scripture that we can fill in the details as to who he was and what he did. He is the man, and I emphasize the word man, though you have been told he was the man that destroyed the world that existed before existence from the face of the earth without leaving a trace. So although there is overwhelming evidence of buildings from prehistoric civilizations on our earth and in our bodies of water, especially off coastal areas, I believe that all evidence of the really technologically advanced civilizations, such as that of Atlantis, have pretty much been turned to dust a long, long time ago.
We've been attacked.
I live. I hope I live. It's coming down on me. No one can go in to get the people out. There's small explosions still going on.
Yeah.
We just heard another explosion. They're handing out gloves and masks.
Oh my God, there it goes!
So as seen in these videos, the destruction that was caused on 9/11, allegedly by just a few thousand gallons of kerosene, is so devastating. Just imagine if something like a Death Star did actually exist in the past and it was deployed. After it was finished, would there anything be left for us to decide how advanced a civilization it was that had been destroyed in such a war? For example, in the movie Star Wars, the very first one, when that planet was destroyed by Darth Vader as a demonstration, there's nothing left. So in a few hundred years, or even in a few generations, unless there was some record that was available that documented it, and there was some video or photographic evidence, how would people know that such a world had even existed?